US satellite imagery has just confirmed something the Pentagon said would take Iran months to accomplish. Iran did it in weeks. According to CNN, which analyzed the satellite images in detail, Iran has reopened at least 50 of the tunnel entrances to its underground missile bases, the same entrances the United States and Israel spent enormous firepower to seal shut during the war. The images show bulldozers, dump trucks, and heavy machinery clearing debris and repaving roads into mountainside complexes that were supposed to be permanently disabled. A US official said the Iranians have exceeded every timeline set by the intelligence community. The equipment used for the repairs was reportedly camouflaged to avoid detection while the work was underway, meaning the Pentagon may not have known how far the recovery had progressed until it was nearly finished. This is not an Iranian claim. This is American satellite intelligence confirming that the strategy designed to trap Iran's missiles inside the mountains has already failed. A US official said the Iranians have exceeded every timeline set by the intelligence community. The Pentagon expected the tunnel entrances to remain blocked for a prolonged period. The engineering required to clear reinforced debris, repave access roads, and restore launch capability was assessed as something that would take many months. Iran did it with bulldozers and dump trucks. The equipment was reportedly camouflaged to avoid detection by satellite surveillance while the work was underway, which means the intelligence community may not have known how far the repairs had progressed until they were nearly complete. US Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth acknowledged the repairs, saying Iran is digging out its launchers and remaining missiles, but added that they have no capacity to replace them and no defense industry. Whether that assessment holds is now being tested by the satellite images showing a recovery that outpaced every American projection. This is the detail that changes the picture. The US-Israeli bombing campaign targeted the tunnel entrances, not the tunnels themselves or the missiles stored inside. The underground bases are built beneath mountains with layers of reinforced concrete. The weapons stored inside, ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, and drone systems, were likely never damaged. What was damaged was the ability to move them out of storage and onto launch platforms. By reopening the entrances, Iran has restored that ability. The satellite analysis suggests Iran now has access to what multiple sources have described as approximately 1,000 missiles of varying ranges and types. If that estimate is even roughly accurate, the arsenal that Trump described as almost gone was never gone. It was locked behind rubble that Iran has now removed. The satellite imagery highlighted one base in western Iran as an example of the pattern. US and Israeli strikes destroyed all 4 entrances to the underground complex, but satellite imagery now shows that 2 of those entrances appear to be open. The roads necessary to transport missile launchers out of the complex have been repaved, and work is underway to clear the remaining 2 entrances. The imagery also shows that Iran has repaired some of the more than 12 craters left by American and Israeli munitions around the base. The imagery shows the number of craters suggests significant firepower was used to seal just 2 entrances. And all Iran needed to reopen them was construction equipment that any civilian contractor could operate. The asymmetry between the cost of the strikes and the cost of the repairs is the part of this story that the Pentagon has not publicly addressed. President Trump repeatedly stated during and after the strikes that Iran's missile and drone capabilities had been drastically reduced. He said their capacity to launch was destroyed. He said very few remained. The satellite images directly challenge that narrative. If the missiles were inside the tunnels when the entrances were sealed, and the entrances are now open, then the missiles are accessible again. The degradation Trump described was never about destroying the weapons. It was about blocking the doors. And the doors are now open. The gap between what the president told the American public and what the satellite images show is the kind of gap that erodes credibility on an issue where credibility matters. Secretary of Defense Hegseth did not deny the reporting. He acknowledged that Iran is repairing the damage. But he framed it as a limited recovery, saying Iran is digging out launchers and remaining missiles without the capacity to replace them. He said Iran has no defense industry. That claim is contested by the evidence that has emerged throughout the conflict, including Iran's deployment of the Imagery air defense system, the continued production of Shahed drones, and the reconstruction speed that the Pentagon itself did not anticipate. Whether Iran can replace the missiles it already has is a separate question from whether it can use them. And the satellite images suggest it can now use them again. Iranian state television, through Press TV, broadcast footage described as showing the interior of the underground missile storage facilities. The footage showed what appeared to be intact missile systems inside tunnel complexes. The footage has not been independently verified and should be treated as Iranian state media content. But the timing of the broadcast, released as the satellite analysis was circulating internationally, suggests a coordinated message. Iran is telling the world, through both satellite-verified surface activity and its own underground footage, that the arsenal is intact and accessible. The combination of Western satellite confirmation of reopened entrances and Iranian footage of what lies behind them creates a picture that is more complete than either source provides alone. While Iran was reopening its tunnel entrances, President Trump was in the White House Situation Room reviewing the draft of a preliminary agreement with Tehran. According to reports, he sent the draft back with modifications that hardened the American position further. The revised demands reportedly include complete dismantlement of Iran's enriched uranium reserves. Iran has already rejected previous conditions as unacceptable. The new conditions are more demanding than the ones Iran rejected. The timing raises a question that neither side has answered publicly. Why would a president harden his negotiating position at the exact moment when satellite images show the other side is recovering the military leverage that was supposed to force concessions? Iran's position in the negotiations has been consistent. Tehran demands the release of approximately $12 billion in frozen Iranian assets held by the United States as a precondition for any substantive progress in the talks. Iran has framed this demand as a matter of principle, saying the assets were seized illegally and must be returned before any broader framework can be discussed. Washington has not publicly indicated whether it is willing to meet that demand. The result is a negotiation in which one side is demanding money before talking, and the other side is demanding uranium before paying. Neither precondition has been met, and neither side appears willing to move first. Qatar, Oman, and Pakistan have been working as intermediaries throughout the crisis, shuttling between Tehran and Washington in an effort to prevent the conflict from escalating further. But the space for mediation is narrowing. Iran's military recovery has strengthened its hand at the negotiating table. Trump's decision to harden conditions has reduced the range of outcomes Iran might accept, and the mediators are now operating between two positions that are moving apart rather than toward each other. The Gulf states mediating this crisis are also suffering economically from the continued disruption of Hormuz. Qatar and Oman need this resolved, but needing it resolved and being able to resolve it are not the same thing. The Strait of Hormuz remains under Iranian restrictions. Roughly a fifth of the world's oil supply normally passes through it. Every day the strait stays restricted, the economic pressure builds on Gulf states, on Asian importers, and on global energy markets. Trump said he is in no rush. But the economic reality of a restricted Hormuz suggests urgency, whether the president acknowledges it or not. If Iran now has access to approximately 1,000 missiles and the strait remains under its effective control, the leverage equation has shifted. Iran is not negotiating from weakness. It is negotiating from a position where its military assets have been recovered and its economic pressure on the world remains intact. The satellite images represent the most significant challenge yet to the narrative the United States built around the military campaign against Iran. The story Washington told was that the strikes degraded Iran's missile capability to a point where Tehran would have no choice but to negotiate on American terms. The satellite images show that the degradation was temporary, that the recovery was faster than any American assessment predicted, and that the missiles that were supposed to be trapped inside mountains are now accessible again. The war did not destroy Iran's arsenal. It inconvenienced it, and the inconvenience lasted weeks, not the months or years the Pentagon assumed. So this is what the week produced. CNN published satellite imagery showing Iran has reopened at least 50 of the 69 tunnel entrances the United States and Israel bombed shut. Bulldozers and dump trucks did the work. A US official said Iran exceeded every intelligence timeline. Hegseth acknowledged the repairs, but said Iran cannot replace its missiles. Iran broadcast underground footage showing what it says is an intact arsenal. Trump reviewed the deal draft and sent it back with harder conditions. Iran demands $12 billion in frozen assets before talking, and the Strait of Hormuz remains restricted while roughly 1,000 missiles sit behind doors that are now open again. The war was supposed to seal those doors permanently. It did not. And now, the question is not whether Iran can launch. It is what happens when a country that can launch is told the deal just got